Hello there, good people. Hi, I'm Jason with Green Country Agroforestry. I'm here in the backyard today on a very sunny and slightly chilly day in late January here in northeastern Oklahoma, and I've been waiting for a day like this because we need to have a talk about pruning your plants. So, why do we want to prune our plants in the middle of winter? Well, there's a couple of reasons. One of them is the plants are dormant right now, so any injuries that we inflict upon them, they won't immediately have to struggle to try to repair. That's one reason. Less shock on the plants. Another reason is all the leaves have fallen off and you can see what's going on with the structure of the tree. Another very good reason for doing it in the middle of the winter. And for some reason, whenever you do your pruning in the winter, it promotes more growth in the spring. So let's talk about some of the reasons why we're going to prune. This tree right here is an Anjou pear. I planted it last spring, and at the time I was contemplating going ahead and cutting this central leader. And the reason you cut a central leader is to control apical dominance. That's the tendency of the tree to grow straight up. We want it to branch out. If it branches out and produces more branches means more flowers means more fruit. More fruit, of course, means more food for me, and as you can tell, I like to eat. So, I'm going to take a look here at this central leader, and I noticed that since I allowed it to grow a little bit, it's produced a couple of side branches here and here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here above where this bud is here, and I'm just going to remove that limb there. And over here I've got one coming off to the side. I've got a little one here coming out. I don't know. Do I want to cut this back? Yeah, I do. I'm going to cut it back right here. Okay. So now I've just reduced the height of the tree by about, a good 2 or 3 feet or so. And doing this is going to cause the tree to want to expend more of its growth out on these side shoots, which means, of course, more branches, more fruit. As this tree develops and gets bigger, that tendency is going to cause the tree to open up and stretch out, gather more sun, and it'll be better for the tree overall. Now, I've noticed where I did these cuts that I have green bark around there, and that's exposed. I don't want that to get infected with anything. So I've got this pruning paint. I know a lot of people don't use it, but I figure if I'm going to inflict an injury on a tree, I may as well do my part to help prevent that from turning into a problem for the tree later. So I put this tar-based pruning paint on here. There are other types of pruning paint that you can use just to seal the wound, and now it won't be losing any moisture and being exposed to infection through that cut that I just made. So, encouraging branching, encouraging and stimulating growth, and controlling that apical dominance so we have more foliage. That's one reason to prune a tree. Let's take a look at a couple more. Alright, let's have a look here. We've got a lot of limbs down on the ground here. What in the world could have happened? Was it a storm? Did I just do some rampant pruning? What could it have been? Well, let's take a look. And up at this pecan tree here. Alright, let's get up here and have a look. So this limb right here has been broken off right there, and you could think wind damage or storm damage. In this case, actually it was deliberate action by humans. We had a roofing company come out to fix the roof, and while they were getting their equipment in here, for some reason known only to them, they found it necessary to rough up this side of the tree and damage some limbs down there. They didn't consult me before they moved the equipment in there, and I'm a little bit miffed at them for that. But as a result, this limb now has a long strip of wood exposed where the bark was stripped away as it was broken and stripped down to from here to here. And this is the perfect opportunity for disease to infiltrate into the wood. I don't want my pecan tree to be stricken by disease, so it's going to be necessary for me to do some reparative pruning. Basically taking these damaged parts and excising them, and of course applying our pruning paint to seal them off so that disease can't sit into the wood at that point. But this is a little bit too big for my little pruning shears here. They're big enough for this little branch here, which is growing off and intersecting with other branches. You want to try to get those branches from coming into contact with each other. You want them to spread out. But let me get my other tool that I've got for this sort of thing. All right, good people. Now, this may look like some kind of medieval weaponry, but actually it's a tool for pruning trees. It's a pole saw and a pruning saw, and it has this interesting little feature here. If I pull on this cord, watch what happens. We've got a little blade that comes up there that can be used for pruning, and it's got a little bit more bite diameter than my hand pruning shears. All right, but we use this for getting up there and sawing off limbs, and it's not as damaging as using a gas or electric powered pole saw. So let's go up here and do a little cutting. Of course, this limb here, the part that's left, is too wide to be cut with the loppers. So we're just going to cut it off with the pole saw. Quick note that I'd like to point out before I finish sawing this off: if this was not just a stump hanging in the air here, I would want to start out by making a cut on the underside of this limb, and that way whenever I finish the cut at the top and the limb hinges down, this underside is already cut and it won't cause a rip or a tear in the wood, or in the bark I should say. And now I've got this wood exposed. Let's go ahead and give it a treatment. Little spot there. Could also use a little bit of TLC. And by putting this pruning paint on, we're going to just make sure that we don't have any diseases getting into the cut area. Kind of like the way you'd apply a Band-Aid if you cut yourself. In this particular case, we're stopping the infiltration of fungal infestations. And of course, getting black sticky goop all over our hands in the process. Alright, so there's the cut end. But whenever they broke the branch, it peeled the bark all the way down to there. That big long scar is just an open invitation for diseases to come in and infect the tree. So I had to get rid of this piece of wood here. It was going to be dead anyway. Okay, so we're back out here at the Bartlett pear tree. This is pear tree number 1, and I've got my Stockings Cane here, which I'm getting pruning paint all over. Stockings Cane is a useful tool not only for handling livestock, but it's also useful for handling trees. You can reach up here and pick a branch, pull it down, tend to the fruit, prune that branch if necessary. So it's useful in that regard. This cane, from my hand to the top of the cane, is 12 foot. I want to keep these trees maintained at a height of about 14 foot, if I can, 12 to 14. And so looking up there, I can see that we have some growth that is above the 12-foot mark, but most of it is at about 12 foot. Which brings us around to another reason. Having assessed the situation, I decided it's time to bring out the big guns. We've got our little giant ladder here, and this is a step ladder. It's a combination ladder. It's a step ladder and it is a regular size fold-out ladder. And hey, look, at this height I don't even have to use the cane. I can just trim that. But I'm going to need to get this one over here too. So let's get that. Okay. Come up here. All right, and this of course brings us to the other reason for pruning your trees, which is simply management. I don't want this tree to get too big. I don't want it to overtower the pecan trees in the area, and it will get about 30 or 40 feet tall, maybe even 50 or 60 as it gets older. But if I keep it trimmed down to around 12 to 14 feet, then the fruit should always be within easy reach, either with the Stockings cane or by climbing up on a ladder to get it. And I don't want to let the tree get much bigger than that. Okay, let's have a look at this piece of wood here. You know, on a more woody species, like one of these hazelnuts over there or that alder around the corner, I could take a cutting and look for the node right around there and cut within maybe an 1/8 inch of the node, maybe nick the node a little bit, put a little bit of rooting hormone on there, put it in some moist soil, wrap it up so it doesn't dehydrate, and have a chance of getting the cutting to root. But fruit trees don't do that well with cuttings like that. You can abrade the surface and attach soil to the spot where the bark has been abraded and do something called air layering, and sometimes manage to get roots to grow on a section that way. But just rooting it from a cutting rarely ever works. But I want to take a look at some of the anatomy of this. All right, so we're looking at this twig here, and these parts here are coming out. They're forming new branches. That's pretty clear that they're forming new branches. These tiny bits here that look like spikes, that bit there, and that bit there, that bit here. As a matter of fact, these bits are a little on the sharp side. It wouldn't surprise me if a person could puncture their shoe with one of these if it was on the ground. But these are called fruiting spurs. This is where the flowers will come out in the spring, here in a couple of months. So, new branch, and the sharp little pointy thing is a fruiting spur. Okay, so we've covered pruning your trees to encourage growth, pruning your trees to shape growth, to direct the direction that those trees are going to expand and grow. We've covered pruning trees to deal with damage that's already occurred and to mitigate the effects of that damage. And we've covered pruning trees to prevent future damage from either limbs abrading each other, shading each other out, causing parts of the tree to not function properly or inhibit airflow, leading to possible fungal infections at a future date. We've covered pruning trees for ease of management in the case of, say, the fruit trees, the pear trees. And now I've got one more example of when you might want to prune your trees. This one is a redbud, and it's, I don't know, probably about 20 years old, so it's probably got another 5 or 10 years of life left in it. But the way it's grown, it's come over here and it's overshadowing the driveway, which wouldn't be a problem, except this is where Mary parks her semi-truck whenever she's home. And the semi-truck keeps on bumping into the limbs of this tree. So we're just going to do a little bit of therapeutic pruning to remove the damaged limbs and to remove the limbs that present a problem whenever she's parking the truck. This is sort of that case where you're pruning because the limbs are just in the way. Well, all right, good people, that is how we go about pruning our trees here and a few of the reasons why we prune our trees and why you might want to prune your trees. I hope you found the video informative or at least entertaining, maybe both. And if you did, you know what to do. I'll catch you next time.